Hey, what's up? This is Tariq Nasheed, and I'm up here in New York City with AllHipHop.com. AllHipHop.com has been in the forefront of giving you the truth on hip-hop news and hip-hop culture. So check out our interview right here on AllHipHop.com. We're chopping up a game about microphone check. So check this out.
What's good, ladies and gentlemen? I go by the name of DJ Thoro, a.k.a. Thorozano Bridge to the Streets. Welcome to another edition of AllHipHop.com. You know what it is. I got a special guest in the building today. Introduce yourself.
I'm back. This is Tariq Nasheed.
Okay.
In the lovely New York with the family.
Exactly.
My man. Pleasure to be back up here.
Thanks for coming on the platform. Yeah. So where do I start? Like, you are trending.
Yeah.
Right now. You know, you are trending right now. Your name is all over the media in terms of hip hop with the microphone check.
Yes.
You know, and it's caused a bit of, I don't want to use the word confusion, but it's raised a lot of concerns between the Latin and the Black community.
Yes.
You know, I see a lot of division going on. I see a lot of he say, she said going on. For my viewers and my perspective, when did this start? When we started not singling out, but when it came to attention that, hey, Blacks created hip hop, Latinos didn't. Who started that whole narrative?
Well, it's kind of a reverse thing. This whole narrative that hip hop was created, it was a reverse thing. The whole narrative that hip hop was created by Blacks and Latinos together, that's a new narrative.
Okay.
That's relatively new. Nobody was saying that like 20, 30 years ago. This whole narrative that it was created by Blacks and Latinos, that kind of became a thing to erase some of the pioneers, because when they started with that 50-50 narrative, you start seeing more of the Latino guys like the Crazy Legs and some of those guys who did phenomenal things in the 80s. And you started to see less of some of the pioneers like Debbie D, Hollywood, Charlie Rock, some of those brothers and sisters who were there in the early days, Trixie, Sasa. You start seeing way less of them. So that became an issue. The real story was not being told, and we started to see a deliberate erasure of the Black contributors and the Black pioneers of hip hop. And we wanted to say, no, they should be recognized, because if we're going to talk about the history of hip hop and the story of hip hop, we got to be truthful so that the integrity of the culture will remain as it evolves.
Right. Now, let me give you my perspective.
Go ahead.
What I see, they say that violence is the answer to a beef that's never settled. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if you don't have dialect on a disagreement, it's gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Whether it be name calling, insults, division, you know, resentment, hatred, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I said all that to say this. From my perspective, I think what's happening is people are confusing inception with participating.
Right.
That's the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone knows it was created by young black Americans.
Yes.
But what happens is when someone says it was created by young black Americans and you wasn't there, I think that's the wrong way to explain it. Right. Just from my perspective, I think it should go like this. Young black Americans created hip hop. You were there as a spectator.
Right.
Not a participant.
Right.
You were there as a spectator, not a participant. It's getting lost and you wasn't there. You didn't create it.
Right. And I think people generally understand when somebody say, well, you weren't there as a creator. They kind of understand that. And a lot of people try to make the proximity argument. Well, yeah, I was there right next door to such and such. So we're not saying that. We're not saying that there were not Latinos and Puerto Ricans in the Bronx. Of course they were there. I live in L.A.
Okay.
I lived in an apartment with some Mexican people, and they used to play mariachi music all the time.
Okay.
I can't say I am a pioneer of mariachi music because I live next door to them. It's not my culture. I was just living next door to them.
Right.
Same thing. When hip hop first started, it was foundational Black Americans, and then some of our Caribbean brothers and sisters started to get involved, and then the Latino brothers and sisters started to rhyme and DJ and b-boy later, and that's fine. We should tell the story truthfully, other than having a fake creation story, because what happens is this: if you can get away with half the lie, you'll start telling a whole lie.
Right.
Because the lie is trying to evolve to the Latinos actually created what we now know as b-boying, and Black folks got it from them. That's where the lie is trying to go. That's why a lot of people are kind of pushing back on it.
Right. Now, I want to touch on that too.
Yes.
Do you feel as an outsider? No, excuse me.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Do you feel like an outsider, being that you're from LA, speaking on New York politics, so to speak? How do you like? Because I've heard, like I said, and I play devil's advocate when I
Yes,
do interviews.
absolutely.
He's not from New York. Why is he speaking on something that he wasn't here? He's not
Right,
even
and
here.
that's another straw man argument. I saw an Asian guy, this guy China Mac, talking about, well, I'm from the Bronx and we created hip hop and we. This is an Asian
Which
dude.
is ridiculous.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
right.
what the hell are we? Well, you speaking French. I have more of a connection with the foundation of Black American Bronx culture, being from a foundation of Black American culture.
Okay.
Again, just like with Mexicans in L.A. A Puerto Rican would have more camaraderie with them because they're part of Latin culture, even though I'm living next door to the Mexican cats playing mariachi music. So the same thing.
Okay.
We're talking about a culture. See, people try to pretend the Bronx was some kind of island that was cut off from the rest of the world.
Right.
No, there were people there. Who were the people? Where were they from? Where were they bringing the cultures from? There was a great migration of black people coming from the South. They were bringing their funk music with them. They were bringing the culture with them. They were bringing the slang with them, bringing the dances with them. And a lot of that bubbled in Harlem and the Bronx. So we're not disconnected from each other. Brothers and sisters from New York, they would go visit their relatives in the South. You go down to North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama to visit your cousins and your aunt and your grandma. So we were all connected with each other still, even though we lived in certain areas of the country.
It's funny you bring the South and you know, in New York, because at the end of the day, a lot of people. Shy Rock, she's from North Carolina. She's from North Carolina. Right.
And in the movie Microphone Check, most of the pioneers, their families are from the Carolinas. Melly Mel, Hollywood, Busy Bee,
Jazzy J is from South Carolina.
Oh, yep,
He's
absolutely.
From South Carolina.
King Mario was from North Carolina.
From North Carolina.
So there's a lot.
So there's always been a connection with Southern, and because everybody, at the end of the day, everybody comes from down south because you migrated from down south to wherever, you know.
And here's another thing: the guy, a comedian named Pigmeat Martin.
Pigmeat Martin. Here Come the Judge. Here Come the Judge.
That record in 1968 called "Here Comes the Judge." He's rapping over a funk beat.
Right.
Many of the pioneers said they were inspired directly from that record.
Right.
Pygmy used to perform in Harlem at the Apollo all the time. He lived in the Bronx. A lot of folks don't know that.
Okay.
Pygmy lived in the Bronx, and he's buried in the Bronx today. So there's that connection that's there that nobody ever makes and nobody ever talks about.
Right. And I think also what's happening is when people talk about hip hop, they go, "Oh well, there was Puerto Ricans in B Street, there was Puerto Ricans in Wild Style."
Yeah,
true, but most people are only speaking about hip hop from their discovery point,
right?
So if you're talking about, let's take Wild Style for instance.
Yeah,
Wild Style came out in '82. It was filmed in '81.
Yes,
correct. It was filmed in '81. So what happened 10 years before that?
Right.
You're talking from a discovery point of view.
And we talked about that in the film. Our brother Jay, the hip hop historian, in our film, he mentioned that he spoke with Charlie Ahern, and in 1981, when they were trying to find people to be in Wild Style, most of the brothers in the Bronx was telling Charlie Ahern, "We don't really break no more. That's played out now." They stopped doing it, but the Latino cats kind of picked it up. That's why you see a lot of them in Wild Style, and they did phenomenal things. We'll give our Latino brothers and sisters the credit where credit is due. They did phenomenal things with breakdancing, and they took it to another level. But we were doing that a decade before.
So there's a book I want you to check out if you're not familiar with it, and this is the one of the most authentic books documenting hip hop in its first 10 years, and it's called Hip Hop: The Illustration of Breakdancing, Graffiti, and MCing or whatever, and DJing. Excuse me. It's by an author named Steve Hagar.
Okay.
All right. You got to see this book because
I want to see that. Yeah.
What the book is basically what you already did. What you're doing now, they already did it.
Okay.
In paperback form.
Oh, cool. They
interviewed the same people: Bam, Herc, Sasa.
Yeah.
Flash, Crazy Legs is in this book. It gives you an in-depth story of before Kool Herc came here, what he was doing in Jamaica.
Yes.
When he came to Jamaica, to the point of what he was wearing when he got here. You know, it gives you in-depth. So I encourage.
What's the name of that book again?
It's called Hip Hop. Where's my phone? It's called Hip Hop: The Illustration of Breakdancing and Graffiti.
Okay, I'm going to order that book today.
You got to. Well, that's going to be hard too to order the book because it's going on the net for like $500.
Oh damn!
Yeah,
damn. Okay.
It goes for a lot of money. It came out in '84.
Oh, so it's an older book.
So they documented. The book came out in 1984.
Okay.
So it documented from '68 to 1984 how hip hop began.
Did they mention John Brown in that book?
They mentioned everybody in that book.
Because that's another
Disco
person.
King Mario.
Yeah.
Spy. Rockwell, the Nigga Twins, you name it, they They
What's the author of the book's name?
of Steve Hager. I'm gonna show you right here. Hold on, where is this book at? Because the only way you could get it now, if you want to actually see it, is you could get it. This is the book right here.
Okay.
That's the book.
Stephen Hager. Okay.
You can get it. You can get it through ebook. You can read it that way.
Okay. Cool.
But this book covers the Savage Skulls,
Okay.
the Black Spades. It covers before the Cross Bronx Expressway was built in the Bronx.
Okay.
It covers all of this,
Okay.
going back to the 60s. You know, before Hurt got here. Hurt came here in 68.
Yeah.
It covers when he was in Jamaica.
Yeah.
He actually came here and what took place and how it took place. So I think...
I want to read that because a lot of folks don't know, and we talked about this in our film Microphone Check. Hurt talked about going to parties, a particular one by a DJ named John Brown, and
Right.
he was in there playing breaks and people were b-boying in
Right.
there.
So I was just talking to my guy Boy Wonder. So this is another perspective, and let me know how you feel about this.
Yeah.
So right now the narrative is hip hop started. It's documented that it's the first hip hop party. I'm gonna say it started was August 11th, 1973. Correct?
Right.
That's
the narrative.
That's the narrative.
Which
So
we've disputed that too.
right. So fill me on this. So if hip hop started August 11th, 1973, so that's the day everybody learned how to do what they did.
All right.
Is that the day Kool Herc had he bought all those records on August the 11th, 1973? Is that the day he learned how to DJ? What happened leading up to that? You had to learn how to do this stuff before you could do this party. So I think we're just speaking on stuff from a perspective of when we discovered it or when this happened. But what led you to do that? When you play football, you don't just play football. You had to learn how to play football. Like, how long did it take him to learn this stuff?
Like our brother Jay, the hip hop historian, said, "Hey, what happened? What was happening on August 10th?
Right.
The day before.
The day before.
Did hip hop just pop up the
Right.
next day?
So-
Right.
And I said all that to say, I don't think we're gonna ever get a definitive date when it started. We could get a timeline,
Right.
but you're never gonna get a day that hip hop started. It's nearly impossible.
Right. And when something as culturally relevant as hip hop has just taken over the worldscape, people kind of have to frame it in a certain way that's understandable, without letting the narrative speak truly about the evolution of it. They don't do that about country music. They know that country music was something that evolved into country music.
Right.
They know that rock and roll was something that evolved. It wasn't created on one day. It was just something that kind of grew into the culture.
Right.
So same thing with hip hop. There were, Bam has said that hip hop most likely started in 70. Herc has said the same thing. Some people say it probably started in 69.
69.
because all
I've
of
heard
the
71 too.
Yeah. So Trixie was breaking in 70. He retired in 75.
Right. So before I lose my point, going
Yes,
back
go
to the breaking point.
Yeah.
In this book, Legs is in this book.
Okay.
Sasa's in this book. They're speaking. So the timeline is, so Legs started b-boying in 77.
Yeah.
Right? Legs started b-boying in 77. So in according to the book and in the information in the book I just told you about, so in 78, 79, it clearly says all the black b-boys pretty much stopped breaking.
Yeah.
And people like Legs and others picked it up.
Yep.
Picked it up. So no one can really or should dispute that it was created, by black Americans.
teens. Yes,
black,
indeed.
black teens. Again, I just think the interference comes when that's led with you just wasn't there.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people, man, when we do something constructive, and now that hip hop is seen as constructive, there's just this thing where they just don't want to give us credit.
Okay.
That's really what it boils down to. Because listen, when hip hop was looked at as negative, that's that black shit. When it was looked at as, okay, they're spinning on the ground and they're rapping about degenerate stuff and they're not really rapping. It's not really music. It was all negative.
Right.
I remember and we put some of these articles in the movie Microphone Check, some of the earliest media attention to hip hop. Some of these articles were crazy. It was talking about black crime and this music promotes black violence. It was black, going all into the 80s and 90s. Remember when they had the censorship cases going, they were going after black artists and black record labels. Even Sugar Hill Gang, they had federal charges and federal cases against them. Rap-A-Lot, so many other black labels. They made it a black thing.
Right.
Now that, everybody has overcome that and made hip hop somewhat respectable to a certain degree. Now they want to all lives matter it. Well, we all created it. It's all about it. It's for everybody. Okay, that's fine, but let's recognize and give respect to the Debbie D's and the Busy Bees and the Hollywoods and people like that. And also another argument is the difference between the hip hop DJ and the disco DJ.
And disco DJ,
right? Because we get deep into that too. I think Hollywood should get more recognition,
right,
as a pioneer of hip hop.
Well, according to Hollywood, he's the first to rap on the mic over records.
Over records, he is, because he influenced everybody.
He influenced everybody, right?
Yeah.
You know.
But here's the thing with Hollywood, because he was playing at a Club 371, something like that. It was more of an older crowd of hustlers, so you kind of had to be dressed up. So the B-boys who were on the ground, he was like, "No, get that out of here." So that kind of soured a lot of people into recognizing him as a pioneer of hip hop, because he didn't encompass the whole thing of it. Also, I think with Disco King Mario, a lot of his recognition was kind of squandered, I think, because he used the word disco.
Right.
A lot of Flash didn't use disco. Herc didn't use disco. Baron and Breakout, they didn't use disco. Well, they used Brothers Disco, but you know they had the individual names.
Right.
So I think he kind of got dismissed into the disco thing too. So we cover all of that in the movie Microphone Check.
Right. Now I gotta let you know, I personally know Crazy Legs. You know, like personally.
Yes.
And to his defense, he never said that anyone created anything.
Okay.
He just said they were there.
Okay.
You know.
No, I've heard. Hold on now, because I've heard Crazy Legs say some stuff.
No, well, I'm just because I like I you know,
Crazy Legs, phenomenal dancer. I was a big fan of Crazy Legs when I saw Beat Street.
But I just think the confusion is coming from inception and participant.
But see, with Crazy Legs was saying something to the degree, well, some of those other guys, when they were b-boying, it wasn't like what he was doing. Nobody was doing it like he was doing it. And he, you know, it was him who changed what b-boying is. He really
but that's not saying he created it though. That's still not saying he created it.
Okay, because to a way, it's almost saying what the original pioneers were doing wasn't really b-boying until what he did with it, and he made it real b-boying, because that's kind of where the argument seemed like it's going.
Well,
That's
me personally, I don't get that from that. I just get they were doing something. I advanced it. That's what I get from that. I advanced the wind. All right, you were doing half of windmills. I did a full rotation because he's credited as creating a windmill. When most people did the continue. I mean, they would just do a backspin, but he did a he kept going instead of doing the backspin. So I take that as he advanced it.
Okay, but let's be very clear. You go look in the 1960s. A lot of the black tap dancers, they were doing floor work. They were doing a lot of elaborate floor work, and that's who Sasa, Trixie, the twins. They personally said they were looking at those guys. They actually wanted to get tap lessons. They couldn't afford tap lessons, but they could do those breakdown moves. Right.
And they are credited as the originators.
Yes, they are.
Right. So that's my point. I just think we're getting lost in not who created it. We're getting lost in they didn't participate versus they were participants.
Yeah, well, the problem is when you have Fat Joe and Fat Joe went out there, we created it 50-50.
Right.
And people are like, wait a minute, come on now. Because y'all weren't participating, no 50-50 in no early days. And these are facts, and all of the pioneers have said this.
Right.
So I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
That did.
Yeah.
And me personally, if something falls in my favor, whether I want it to or not, you have to go with the truth. And that goes for both sides, you know? If it's just that simple.
Yeah.
Charlie Chase is on camera saying that Latinos didn't create hip-hop.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Crazy Legs is on camera back in the day. They used to tell the truth back in the day. He was like,
tell the truth back in the day.
Yeah, they used to tell the truth. Crazy Legs was like, when we started breaking, they were like, that's that Moreno dance. That's the Moreno style.
And it's funny you said that, because literally I had a conversation with Legs about that last night. So he said, I did say that it is a Moreno style, and there's also a Latin style. This is what he says. You know what I mean? I'm just like, this is what he says. And I'm not here to speak for Crazy Legs. You know what I mean? But I'm just looking at both sides of the spectrum that I just think the way it's been delivered is what's causing division. You know, then now everybody's name calling each other. It's getting disrespectful. You know, that's the part I don't like. I don't like the divisiveness. I think as grown men, we should be able to sit down and talk,
and my brother,
whether you agree or not.
Right, and Lord Jamar has issued a challenge to people. Lord Jamar, and he's in the movie. He said, "Hey, man, KRS, Fat Joe, let's all sit down and let's chop it up."
Right.
He offered a challenge to everybody.
Well, I think some people don't want to do that because they may feel they're owed an apology publicly before they do that. I don't know.
Apology for what?
That's just I mean, that's some people's take on that. You know what I mean?
Apology for what?
Right. I think the name there has been a lot on both sides. There's been a lot of name calling immaturity on both sides. And that's part I don't like. I don't think it should come to that. I think it could be handled a different way, even if we disagree with each other. You know what I mean? I don't know the remedy for that, but as grown men, I think we should have to subdue the name calling.
Yeah, but I don't know whose name calling. I don't know. I just stick by truth.
Right.
I just tell the truth, and I get the pioneers to sit up and tell their truth.
Right.
So the truth is the truth.
Right. So let's speak about the film.
Yeah.
All right. It was coming out today, right?
Yes, it was.
Right. So we're gonna address the elephant in the room.
Yes, it is.
It was shut down.
Yes, it was.
They took it off Amazon. Because of Joe Conzo.
Joe Conzo.
Joe Conzo.
Joe Conzo had it taken down.
He put a cease and desist because you have intellectual property, as he put in the trailer, if I'm not mistaken, that he didn't authorize you to use. So you want to speak on that?
Okay. No, it wasn't even about the trailer.
Okay.
Conzo and I had words because when we first put the trailer out, there was a couple of his images in there. And his whole narrative, you're going to say Puerto Ricans weren't there. You ain't going to use my Puerto Rican pictures. It was that. You can't use the pictures of a Puerto Rican.
Okay.
And he contacted, because Rock the Bells did an article, he contacted them and had them take it down. So I said, he's on that. I said, I don't need your pictures, man. I'm going to take your pictures out. We took his pictures out of the trailer. I hit him up privately. Hey, man, let me know if any other pictures are in this thing that you own, because I don't want to use none of your pictures. Okay. I don't want to disrespect.
Right.
And, I thought the conversation was cordial. Now, when you do documentary films, you have something called errors and omissions. Sometimes we have errors and omissions insurance, just in case there's some images used that you don't want to use or that somebody wants to make a claim to.
Right.
You can still legally use them because it's fair use, because it's an educational film. So you can use them. But if they don't want to use them, if they don't want us to use them, I just take them out so I don't go back and forth.
Right.
A couple of Conzo's images slipped through. It was one of Charlie A. Hearn, and it was an old image of Kaz, who's in the movie. Grandmaster Kaz is in the movie.
Kaz.
And I didn't know that they were his. Legally, we could use them. Now, just on GP, if he hit me up and say, hey, I don't want them, I would have taken them out. He never hit me up and said that.
Right.
He never said that. Instead, he did some backdoor stuff that was completely dishonorable and got nothing to do with hip-hop. He went to Amazon. He could have easily hit me up and say, hey, man, there was a couple of pictures that's in the film.
Right.
He didn't do it. He went to Amazon behind our backs. I didn't even know he did it until later and had them take the film down.
Right.
Then we got this big premiere happening all over the country that was supposed to start today.
Right.
He waited 2 days before the premiere. It was done very meticulously, and then sent them a letter telling them that there was a copyright infringement, which is not a copyright infringement. He understands that what we did with the film and his image, the two that's in there that weren't really needed, but they were used as fair use.
Right.
And we had a legal standing. That's why he never hit me up. When a corporate entity hears that, they're like, okay, we're gonna have to back up off of it.
Right.
Because we don't, even though we'll win in court, we don't want to have to spend money with our lawyers. We don't want to waste time with lawyers. So they dropped the film. So Conzo caused the film to be dropped all over the country from the theaters. And people are feeling a certain way about it. He's kind of trying to explain now like he didn't do anything. But that's confirmation to a lot of people that a lot of these folks who claim to be down with hip hop are exploitive and they have a conquistador mindset.
Right.
And a lot of people feel a certain way about that. That ain't hip hop worth a damn. If you had an issue, you could have hit me up. And again, like I said, the images are fair use legally.
Right.
But I would have taken them, and we're taking them out anyway.
Right.
We're taking them out. It's going to be back on Amazon, and we're going to have it back. But yeah, this put a little wrench in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, is it this simple? Because I'm optimistic. I think everything can be simply handled. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Would this conversation could have been this simple, going like this? Hey man, you can't use my pictures if you said Puerto Ricans wasn't there. I never said you wasn't there. Right. Clearly you were there if you're in the picture.
Yeah.
I said you didn't invent it.
Right. Yeah.
I know it sounds redundant, but maybe that's
his whole thing is we can't give them co-creation credit. You ain't gonna use my pictures. It was that type of thing.
Okay.
That's what that was about. That's really all it's about. And this was a way that many people believe was done by him, and there's some other people behind the scenes too, to sabotage this, because
Right.
we're giving credit to a lot of the pioneers who are not getting the credit they're supposed to get. I've been on mainstream media runs all for the last couple of weeks, making sure that Coke LaRock, Hollywood, Sasa Trixie, Debbie D, Shyrock, Mel, all of these pioneers get their just due, because they just don't get the credit they deserve
Right.
for creating this culture.
Right. Now let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Everybody that you've talked to, you obviously seek them, and you got their interview from them.
Yes, indeed.
Did you interview anybody that basically opposed them with the narrative?
You know,
Did you
I
interview them
wanted
also?
to. I wanted
Because
to.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I wanted to. And there were some cats out there who's, I know they're watching. They agreed, and then they backed out.
Okay.
I was going to get Charlie Chase. One of the people who was corresponding with Charlie Chase talked him out of it. So it was a lot of backpedaling.
Okay.
I wanted to get in touch with Crazy Legs. I told people to get me in touch with Crazy Legs. People were fumbling and mumbling around. So I did want to get some people to kind
So
of
you
give
wanted
it
to have a dialogue.
I absolutely
Okay.
wanted to.
Okay.
Absolutely wanted to get, I wanted to hear about some of these pioneers. If you got some Latino pioneers who were there in the early 70s, I'm begging people to tell me who they were. And people were just giving me the runaround. They were like, well, you got to go over here. They wanted me to do some Where's Waldo shit. Well, you got to go to Crotona Park. Okay, go to the park and do what? You got to go to this boxing gym. You got to go to that bodega. It was like trying to get me to run around all over the place without telling me who exactly I need to talk to. So the olive branch was out there. I wanted to talk to any potential Latino pioneers who were participating and creating in the early days of hip hop, and nobody
In the
really,
beginning, in its inception,
in
not
the
the
inception.
early days.
Right.
The
Inception.
Inception. See, that's
Right.
where we get mixed up at.
Right.
There.
I wanted to know where the Latino cats who created something that we didn't create. That's
Right.
who I was looking
That's
for.
how it needs to be explained.
Right.
That's how it's getting mixed up.
Right.
Like I'm as a spectator of what's going on, and my word is not law, but
Yeah.
I'm just looking at how this is getting confused. People are confusing inception with participation.
Mm-hmm.
They're mixing the two. It's two different things.
Yeah.
Because you didn't create anything doesn't mean you didn't participate.
Right.
They're taking it like they wasn't even there.
But, I think that's a straw man argument. I think that's a straw man argument, because when people say, well, you weren't there, that means you were not there on the mic. You were not there on the turntables.
Right.
You were not there on the dance floor. That's when they mean you were not there participating. So I think that's kind of a given. I think people, because they don't really have a real comeback on who the pioneers were in the early days who
Right.
are non-black, they get into a straw man argument. Well, I was next door, so how you going to say I wasn't there? I was living in apartment 4G. I was living next door to Grandmaster Caz. It was that type of thing.
Right.
So that's a straw man argument. The Latino brothers and sisters, we always say they were the first students of hip hop, and that's good. That's,
And that's
good
okay.
enough. That's
If
okay.
that's what-
That's
if that's
okay.
what
But
it-
I think
right.
they have a problem with that.
Right.
You know, I think that's where the problem is. They want to be labeled as co-creators,
co-creators.
which they were not. Unfortunately,
Right.
that's just
Okay.
not the truth.
Right. You know what's interesting about hip hop, this genre of music?
Yeah.
This is the only genre of music that exists where the pioneers, the ones the ones that were there from its inception, excuse me, they created are still alive.
alive.
But yet we are having this conversation. How
still
and
alive.
why are we having this conversation when it could easily be solved?
It's been solved with microphone check. Microphone check has solved it. That's why people are attacking the movie. They're attacking.
Right.
This movie's being attacked
Okay.
left and right. You don't attack a lie.
Right.
You don't have to attack a damn lie. A lie is going to fall flat on its own. You only attack the truth that you want to have buried. And the reason why they want to attack the truth, because right now, hip hop is going to the Olympics right now. In a couple of weeks, you're going to have b-boying in the Olympics. And there's a big corporate push, and everybody wants to latch on as an originator so that corporate money can start sprinkling down on them, and they can say, hey, look, I was in the Bronx. I'm an originator, and let me get that bag.
Right.
So that's where a lot of this is coming from. Because when we look at radio, and I talked about this before, a lot of hip hop radio, it's non-blacks in hip hop radio.
Right.
Especially in out here and in LA, you don't have no black people in hip hop radio in LA. Damn near, it's like one or two people
Right.
playing black music, but the people controlling the music, programming it, and the DJs aren't even black. So people have been lunching and glomming off of our culture, and when we say, hey, we need some of the people who are participating in creating this culture to get some of those resources too.
Right. I mean, I personally would love for you. I mean, you, Crazy Legs, and anybody that's on the opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of what how they recollect things happening or happen, come together and have a conversation, because that's the only way I see this getting resolved. Because it's just going to keep going on.
Yeah.
It's
resolved. Microphone Check resolved it. I mean, when people start doing Karen ass stuff by contacting theaters and retailers,
Right.
that ain't hip hop. I don't know
Right.
what that is. That's beyond having a conversation. Right. Now you into some weirdo snitch cop Karen bullshit that ain't got nothing to do with hip hop, and that's letting folks know that ain't hip hop behavior. We don't do that.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
If you are you surprised that happened?
I'm actually not. That's the thing. That's why people are like, you seem pretty calm about it. I'm like, I ain't even shocked.
Right. Because I look at both sides of the story. If I feel disrespected, right or wrong, people are going to do, make those type of movements.
Yeah, but we don't do that.
I mean?
For Foundation of Black America, we don't do punk ass shit like that. Like Fat Joe has said a lot of stuff that rub people the wrong way. People ain't calling radio stations and calling venues. People will step to him and say, hey man, I disagree, and this is where we'll talk to somebody. We'll just step to you and just let you know what the conversation is like, what the opinion is. When people start doing little weird ass Karen stuff, that ain't hip hop, that's something else, and that kind of proves our point.
Right.
Yeah?
Right. Now it was also said that, and this is no disrespect to anybody. Again, I'm a student of the game myself. Still learning, still seeking knowledge. Photography. Do you consider photography an element of hip hop?
Hell no.
Okay.
No. If Jane Goodall goes to Africa and takes a picture of a tribe, is she a member of the tribe? No. If I go take pictures of the World Trade Center, did I build the World Trade Center or the Empire State Building? No, that's not an element. The fact that people have to lower the bar for other people to let them be somewhat of a contributor to hip hop, that shows how weak the argument is.
Right.
Taking a photograph is not hip hop. People have been taking photographs since the 1800s. So photography exists. People took pictures of rock and roll and blues artists. That don't make them rock and roll and blues.
Right. Well, I think that's where another blur line gets,
That's not even a blur line. I mean, we're talking common sense.
Right.
Photography, that's not an element of hip hop.
Right.
You understand? Hip hop, b-boying, DJing, breaking.
No, I know. No, I just
knowledge.
And knowledge.
You understand?
Yeah, I just wanted you.
People forget that knowledge part.
Yeah, I just wanted you to answer that from your perspective.
Yeah.
Some people see it as the documentation of it is an element of it.
No.
Because
there were a lot of people taking pictures.
Right.
Like in Microphone Check, it's a 2-hour and 30-minute movie. We only use 2 pictures of Conzo's, and that was by mistake. You understand? Right. We didn't even know that those were his pictures technically. There's dozens and hundreds of pictures out there that people have in their personal stash, videos and things like that we've obtained. So the story is out there. The story is told. Again, there was stuff going on in the early 70s of some of these pioneers. Trixie, we got pictures of him in the early 70s. Some of these other pioneers, we got pictures of them in the early and mid 70s. Right. So yeah, everybody had pictures.
Right. I just think, even for me, like, it's only so much I could talk about, because I'm well aware that I wasn't there. So I feel uncomfortable talking about certain stuff when I know I wasn't there. I'm only going off what I've read and the research and people that I know and secondhand information. So at some point, I like to be a student and try to learn and make my own opinion based off what's going on. Why can't we get the actual creators together and have this conversation?
We did.
And why did we not listen to what their words should be law?
That's why Microphone Check is law.
Okay.
We got the pioneers. We got them in the movie telling their story.
Okay.
There's no other female rapper before Shara. Nobody. There's no other breakdancer before Trixie. Nobody. This is the first guy to do it.
Right.
There was nobody rapping, flowing, and spitting bars over records at parties before Hollywood.
Right.
Nobody. So there was nobody doing graffiti and using the whole city as their landscape before Cornbread. Right.
Philly.
Right, from Philly. Nobody before him. So we got all of the people who did it first to have them say in their own words what inspired them and who was around them at the time they were doing all of this stuff. And it's pretty accurate because it's their story. So because you can't crowbar nobody else in it, now they want to say it's divisive. It's not divisive. Some people are upset because they can't crowbar themselves into the narrative. So now people are doing little underhanded, sneaky backdoor stuff to try to sabotage the film. And that's promoting the film even more. That makes people want to go see it more.
Right.
Because that's showing that this truth is really coming through and it's bothering people. It shouldn't be divisive, man. When it comes to black folks getting the credit we're supposed to get, and if nobody else can get credit with us, then it's divisive. We don't want credit for salsa music, even though there were some black elements of salsa music. We don't want credit for all of this other stuff. We'll give you your credit. We don't want credit for reggaeton. That's you. Knock yourself out. But show respect to the pioneers who really created hip hop in the early days, and just show respect. That's all it is.
Right. Did you ever speak to Grandmaster Flash?
I spoke with him on the phone. He was supposed to be in the movie.
Well, I mean, being that you spoke to him officially, what was his take on this whole situation?
Well, we didn't go to, because we were in the middle of filming.
Okay.
So, the narratives were still, being put on film. We were trying to schedule him to be in the film, but we were filming all last year. And, that was the 50th anniversary. So they had Flash all over the place. Mm-hmm. But Flash, very cordial brother, good guy. We just didn't get our schedules together.
Okay.
But I respect Flash because he was on Drink Champs. He was like, hey, man, the original B-Boys, they were black. And then the Latino cats kind of came later.
Right.
He named some of the black B-boys. And so, yeah, Flash knows. Flash has always been honest. And Flash has done videos saying that one of his mentors was Pete DJ Jones.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And his name, Grandmaster, he got that from Grandmaster Flowers.
Right.
So we talk about that in the movie.
Right.
You know?
So from your perspective, hip-hop couldn't have technically started. It's documented that it's the first hip-hop party, whatever, in 73. When do you think it actually, if you had to put a timeline on it, when do you think it actually was created?
I
Just
think, from my perspective,
opinion.
and my research, I would say 69. By 69, 70. By 69, 70, all of the elements of hip-hop were already there. The floor moves, because in the 60s, we saw brothers hitting the floor, doing boogaloo dances. Funk was really growing at the time. And Soul Train, 70, 71, that's a part of the lexicon too.
Right.
So people are doing these funk dances and street dances, rapping, even the word rap, H. Rap Brown, and just the whole term rap, that was a common term, late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
So rhyming over beats, that was a thing. Graffiti, Cornbread had already got the graffiti movement popping by 69. It was already in full swing. You had DJs like Flowers. He was DJing out there in Brooklyn. As a mobile DJ. So the elements were there. When you had parties like John Brown at the Plaza Tunnel playing break records, Kool Herc saw this. Kool Herc, I think he said, hey, you know what? That's funky and the kids like it. Let me just do parties doing just that instead of playing disco records.
He still had to learn it. You see what I'm saying? Right. He didn't just say, oh, okay, now I can do it. He had to learn.
Right. But even when Herc was learning, technically people were saying that Herc was not that good of a DJ.
Right. I've definitely heard that. Definitely heard that.
Right. So even just the concept of just focusing on the break, that's Herc.
Which proves my point. You can't learn it overnight.
You can't learn it overnight. So Flash took it to another level. Flash was the one who really made everything smooth.
Seamlessly.
He made it seamless. So he took that concept and just kind of made it seamless. Because from what I understand, I think Grandmaster Flowers was kind of blending records too, to a certain degree. But Flash really took it to a different level. So yeah, it was an evolution.
Right. Now, with Trixie, did you interview Salsa?
I did. He's in the movie.
What did they have to say about who influenced them? Where did they get it from? Did they literally tell you this?
Yes, they did. They got it from some of those tap dancers from the 50s and 60s, the Nicholas brothers, the Hines brothers.
Okay.
Trixie talks about how he wanted to do tap lessons. I know Sandman Sims had a tap school he wanted to go to, but they just didn't have the money for tap lessons. That was the thing. Sasa was influenced by Peg Leg Bates. He was in some kind of contest that Peg Leg was having. So yeah, they were directly influenced by these guys in the 60s who were hitting the floor.
So Trixie started b-boying in the 60s is what you're saying?
70s. He started 70s.
Is there a date? A year, not date, but a year.
Yeah, he said 70. He said 70. And 1970. And he retired by 75.
Wow.
So yeah, years before.
Well, see, that narrative I've heard. I've literally heard the pioneers who created b-boying stopped by 78. Not saying all blacks or whatever stopped, but the ones who created the dance stopped doing it.
Yeah.
By 78.
Yep.
They can like literally breakdancing, what b-boy, whatever you want to call it, literally played out before the world even knew it existed. It came back. Now, from my observation, Crazy Legs is one of the members who rejuvenated it and continued it when most people that created it stopped doing it.
In the 80s, yep, when they started doing Wild Style.
Right, but no, this wasn't the 80s. This was 79, 78.
But it was Wild Style when people around the world saw it. When that came out?
Actually, it was Flashdance. Was the first.
That was 83. Flashdance was 82.
Flashdance was 82.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's look it up. From what I thought it was
Flashdance
83.
Flashdance was 82, but
okay.
Maybe they were both filmed at the same time because Wild Style was filmed in 81 and came out in 82. Just like B Street was filmed in 83, but it came out in 84. But again, there was a whole 10-year process of things that happened before any of this stuff came out to the public.
Right. And also there were, what was 83, that's what I thought.
83, okay.
Yeah. And, even at the time, because, look, black folks, we create new dances all the time.
But it was filmed in 82.
Yeah, right.
That's my point.
Right,
but,
But yeah, we'd created whole new dances. The popping thing was happening, and there were other hip-hop dances popping off in the 80s, 81, 82, 83. So we had evolved into some other dances.
Right. But we have an understanding. When we say Flashdance 83, Wild Star 82.
Yeah.
That's not when hip hop started.
Right, because a lot of people think that's the origin of it. I've heard people say that.
And people are only speaking from, that's when you discovered it.
Right.
That's when you discovered it. First time I seen a B-boy was Crazy Legs. It was from Wild Style and Flashdance.
Yeah.
And I'm from New York. And I didn't know this was going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, so I could have easily been like, no, it started in 82 because that's when I saw it on TV. Well, I'm not realizing, what happened 10 years before this?
Right.
Before they got to the TV.
Yes, exactly.
Crazy Legs just didn't learn how to DJ when they say, okay, go. It was a process doing that, even with DJing.
And even the name Crazy Legs, that's from a breakbeat. There was a record called Crazy Legs, I think in 1973, and it had a real funky break on it that the original B-boys used to dance to. So a lot of folks don't know that. So, even Rocksteady, that song by Aretha Franklin. Yeah, and there's a crazy break in there that people used to hit the floor to.
It's still used to this day.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, being that this film is temporarily shut down from Amazon,
out of the theaters, and on Amazon,
how can they see this film?
Go to microphonecheck.com. microphonecheck.com, and we're doing some edits, and it's going to be back on Amazon, and it's going to be on our streaming site. We have a streaming site called FBA Stream because a lot of people have been asking about the streaming. We wanted to stream it after it got its theatrical run because this movie, man, there was a lot of Oscar buzz about it. We were talking about getting an Oscar nomination and getting it eligible for the Oscar, and our theatrical run out here in New York was going to qualify it for the Oscar run, but Joe Conzo sending that letter to the theater, that put a monkey wrench in that. And that's unfortunate because the voices of the pioneers who need their voices heard, that put a damper on them. I'm going to be all right, man. I produce all types of movies. But our foundational Black American pioneers who wanted to tell their story, to damper that momentum for them, I think that's very dishonorable. But look, we're going to be all right, man. The movie, people are still talking about it. The buzz is real hot about it. It's sparking a lot of conversation. And you made a good point. I would love for us to get down, get some of the Fat Joes and all these people, get everybody and sit down and talk this thing out. And let's get to the definitive story so that everybody can be in agreement of it. So folks are not saying, well, somebody played a bongo drum in 71, so they're a pioneer too. So we can stop the silly ass narratives and just keep it 100 and just appreciate and show respect to the original creators of this wonderful culture that everybody's eating off of now.
Right. Okay. Well, I thank you for coming by.
My man, my pleasure.
I could go on and on with this, but I don't want to.
It's a great conversation, man. This is gonna be it's gonna be a hot one. It's gonna go viral. I can already tell.
And I don't do stuff for viralness. I do it for
I know. This is a genuine conversation.
Because I want to. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. I may be wrong with a lot of stuff.
Yes, indeed.
Just research. And
where's your family from? Because I hear your Caribbean accent. I can hear that. Where, Jamaica?
My grandfather's Cuban.
Cuban. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Grandfather's Cuban.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cuban. Okay.
Yeah, Cuban. So, and my grandmother was Jamaican.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. I heard that Jamaican thing in there. I've been all over Jamaica. Shout out to Jamaica.
Yeah. So, like I said, I just don't like the divisiveness, man. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it could be handled another way, without the name. Like there have been name calling.
Who's calling the names?
I don't want to get into that. You know what I'm saying?
I'm like, who's name calling?
But there has been a lot of like not so gentleman-like statements made back and forth, and I'm looking at this like I don't like it, and it's literally been turned into a Puerto Rican versus black thing, and that's unfortunate. That bothers me. You know what I mean? I don't like it.
But go watch Microphone Check. Everybody go watch Microphone Check, and if you want to see a thorough film, and it's shot beautifully, and again, these brothers and sisters, they get to tell their story in their own words, and just talk about their lives and what inspired them. So it's a phenomenal piece.
Right. Now, with you and Joe, real quick, how can this get resolved? Can you reach out for conversation? Like, how can y'all come to a medium ground of at least a conversation? Say, hey, look, let's try to get this put behind us and move forward.
No, with that kind of move, when you draw a line in the sand, that's it. You've done something. There's certain things you do, there's no return from that. When you pull a move like that, when you pull a Karen move, just as a man, forget about hip hop. Just as a man, when you pull a Karen move and do little backdoor type of stuff, that's not anybody who should be in the room with thorough, astute people like myself who handle business and stand on business. I don't do backdoor stuff. I don't do Karen stuff. I don't sit up here and try to sabotage people's things.
Right.
I will just sit up and have a conversation with you, and we can get things resolved. So certain folks, they're not worthy of having a sit down with. But a Fat Joe, people like that, even Crazy Legs, I'm down to chop up. I would love to talk to them and just see what's on their mind and see what perspective they're coming from.
Right.
Because they haven't done no backdoor stuff on some saboteur thing.
Right. And real quick before we go, Lord Jamar, what role did he play in this film?
Oh, Lord Jamar was phenomenal in the film, and I have so much respect for Lord Jamar because number one, in the film we talked about the influence of the 5% nation.
I've heard him speak on that.
That's been so omitted from the culture, and that was very instrumental because the 5% movement was happening at the same time as the hip hop movement. And in fact, Kool Herc would have some of the 5%ers at his jams.
Security.
Yeah, as security, and they would watch out for him when he was in high school, so nobody would mess with him.
Right.
So they were very instrumental, and our brother Lord Jamar broke that down beautifully. He was phenomenal in the film.
I mean, he made some interesting points. Even the whole cipher, that's where it comes from. 5%.
Yes, indeed.
And even the b-boy stance,
Absolutely.
There's certain things.
And I like Lord Jamar because he's not afraid to tell the truth.
Right.
And to stand on it, because a lot of people in the industry, you don't want to ruffle feathers. Oh, I don't want my record to not get played if I say something that might offend the program director.
Right.
You're going to stand on business, you're going to stand on business. You're going to speak your truth, you're going to speak your truth. Right. And he's put out a challenge to anybody who wants to come and holler at him, and that's respectable.
Respectful. And also I want to say that I think everyone should accept the truth, even if it don't fall in their favor.
Absolutely.
That goes for me, you, and anybody,
Absolutely.
You should, and I'll leave it at that. So I want to thank you for coming by.
My man, anytime. I love it. MicrophoneCheck.com, family.
Right.
MicrophoneCheck.com.
Anybody want to follow you? How can they do that?
You can follow me on Instagram at Tariq Elite. Follow me on Twitter at Tariq Nasheed. Go to FBA Stream. That's where you're going to be able to see Microphone Check streaming by next week. And and we got our own deodorant, rootworkstyle.com. If you're musty,
oh man, it's hot. So we gonna need that.
I'm out here in New York. I know we got this damn hot in New York, man. Damn.
Right.
So, I'm gonna get some Timberland flip-flops out here,
right?
dude.
Ooh, that might be.
I love New York. I'm out here chilling. But rootworkstyle.com. But Microphone Check. Go to microphonecheck.com. You got to get the movie.
All right. And anything else before we go you want to speak on, chop it up about before we go?
Man, just go see the movie Microphone Check and get the Blu-ray and just enjoy the film and just continue the conversation online because it's a deep conversation that should be had.
Right. All right. The purpose of this interview is never to disrespect anyone. Everybody has their own opinion, so I want to make that disclaimer first and foremost. So much respect to you.
My man.
Thanks for coming out.
My man.
AllHipHop.com. We out.
Yes, indeed.